Good afternoon. If folks are on and can hear me, we will get started in just a few minutes. So if you are on time, feel free to get comfy and settle in, and we'll get started shortly. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear us and see us okay. We'll get started. I'm sure we'll have some folks joining and getting settled in. My name is Liz Schwab, and I sit on Google's local and state policy team. I look after Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, so a special shout out to anyone joining from those fine commonwealths this afternoon. I am joined here on the screen by two of my colleagues from the state and local team, William Floyd, who leads our team, and you'll hear from in just a minute, and Joe Dooley, who looks after state policy and has also been serving as our team's point on COVID-19 response. So he's going to stick around with myself and help with some Q&A at the end. And in case folks have questions that wander away from today's content, he'll be a great resource. Last but not least on the screen here is the star of today's show, Andrea Holterman, who is on Google Civics team and will be leading us through the presentation today. So thanks in advance to Andrea for her time. Before we get started in this weird virtual world, just so you all have a sense of who's joining, we have a mix of, I was told right before we jumped on, over 280 folks registered for today from state and local offices, a mix of elected officials and staff. We have some leadership, county supervisors, legislators, some chiefs of staff, So really a great mix. I think over 20 states represented. So thanks again for taking the time to join us. We hope you find this useful. And without further ado, I will kick it off to William Floyd.
Thank you, Liz. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Liz mentioned, I'm William Floyd, and I'm the director of Google's state and local team. And it's the job of our team to work with people like you, state and local government officials around the country, on issues pertaining to technology, the internet, and specifically Google's products and services. We have a great team, as Liz might have mentioned, of regional managers spread across the country. Many of them you probably already know, several of whom are on today's webinar. And their job is to work closely with each and every one of you, because we know that while Washington, D.C. might get a lot of media attention, the real action of governing and policy making happens on the state and local level, since all of you are dealing with issues that have real impact and real importance to the constituents that you serve day in and day out. And that's why it's really so important for you to be able to communicate with your constituents in easily accessible ways and provide them with trusted information. Now, this year has certainly been a challenge when it comes to that. The typical ways that you would normally engage with your constituents or with your staff and your colleagues, all of that has dramatically changed. That is true. So we hope that today's training can provide you some helpful tools to make that a bit easier, or maybe give you some new ideas on how to broaden your office's reach as we head into the next year. So before I hand it over to Andrea, who really is the main event today, I wanted to let you know that this webinar is something special for us, because it is the first in a series that we will be hosting over the next several months. There'll be future webinars on topics that might be of interest to you, like data privacy or other policy issues related to the internet, resources for small businesses in your community, and discussions about topics that are at least near and dear to us, which fall under the category of data science and artificial intelligence. So please keep your eyes peeled for upcoming registration details for those upcoming webinars for next year. So again, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for joining us today. I know this is a busy time of the year for everyone, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Andrea.
Thank you so much, William. Really glad to have been able to have you on today. And thank you to everyone for joining today. I am so excited to be here. As they all said, my name is Andrea Holterman. I am on Google's Civics outreach team. For those of you who haven't already heard of our team works with anybody in the civic space to make sure they can establish themselves online with authoritative information, amplify their message across all of our tools, and protect their information online. So today I'm going to go over just those. So just running through our agenda really quickly. First, we're going to go over a few tools to help you set up Google accounts to leverage these tools that I'm going to talk about, and how you can protect your information on Google. Then I'm going to talk about a few tools that you can use to make sure that you are appearing well in search. Finally, I'm going to talk about setting up a YouTube channel to better engage with your audience. Finally, we'll have Joe Dooley from our policy team come on with me, and we will have a Q&A section so we can answer all of your questions. A few starting points is that this video will be archived to our YouTube channel. So if there's anything you miss or somebody on your team you want to come watch, you can actually just send them this video afterwards. We will have our contact information put up at the end of this. So if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email us. And then finally, as we are going through this training, please do submit any of your questions below. We will be intaking all of those questions, and then during the Q&A, we will take those questions that you asked below and we'll answer them. So I'll send a few reminders through this presentation to let you know to answer or to ask those questions. But with that, we will get started. So first, I want to talk quickly about how you should organize your accounts on Google as a team so you can utilize all of these tools that I'm going to talk about. It's really important for you and your team to first create non-personal Google accounts to manage your official work. And you want to create different Google accounts that reflect the nature of you and your team's work. So to create a Google account, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to create a Gmail account. You can actually use your government domain email to create a different Google account. So a really effective way that we see folks in the civics space creating their different Google accounts is by having teams create a shared comms team account that multiple people can access, which manages your profiles in Google search, your YouTube channels, etc. As we all know, there can be a lot of staff turnover in offices, on campaigns, and on the official side. So when a staffer leaves the office to move on to another position, you don't want that password and that access to your profiles on YouTube and search to go out the door with it. So a great way to mitigate that is by creating shared accounts. Then for other things like managing your Drive, managing Google Docs, you can create individual staff or Google accounts. And both of these types of accounts are going to be separate from your personal Google account. Once you create all of those Google accounts, you're going to want to make sure that you have security on all of those accounts, or as many accounts as you can. Security for government officials is so important, and I cannot stress that enough. For those individual accounts, whether they're your personal individual account or your professional individual account, you're going to want to put on at least something like two-step verification on those accounts. Many of you have probably heard of that before, and I'll talk a little bit more about different types of two-step verification that you can add to your accounts. For the shared account that you may have with your comms team or team at large, obviously a two-step verification is going to be tricky when there are multiple people accessing that account. So use something like a password manager. Chrome has a password manager built in to the browser, but you can also use things like LastPass. So again, making sure that you're creating those really unique, strong accounts and you're storing them in really safe, secure places. So as I mentioned, two-step verification is a very important thing to have on all of your accounts. Passwords are only the first line of defense against online attacks. Two-step verification provides that extra layer of security. It's a form of strong authentication that requires more than just your username and password when you sign into your account. So with two-step verification, if someone gets through that password layer, they'll still need your phone or a security key to access your account. So there are varying levels of strength when it comes to two-step verification, or otherwise known as multi-factor authentication, etc. Those words are synonymous. But those varying levels of security start with something like an SMS code that many of you might already be familiar with, that gets sent to your phone when you're trying to log in on a new device, all the way to physical security keys and Google's advanced protection being the strongest form of multi-factor authentication. So, as I mentioned, Google's Advanced Protection Program is our strongest security offering yet. It was built specifically for folks like you in mind, for users who may be more subject to a targeted digital attack than the average Google user. So the Advanced Protection Program goes beyond your standard security features by requiring all new Google sign-ins to have a physical USB security key. So this virtually eliminates the threat of phishing because that two-factor code cannot be tampered with in any way if it's a physical key. So, since the Advanced Protection Program started in 2017, there have been 0 successful phishing attempts on those accounts that the Advanced Protection Program protects. So, another really great development that we had this past year is you can either use a physical security key that you can buy, whether it's a Google one, but a lot of good manufacturers make strong security keys. But you can actually now use your iPhone or your Android as a built-in security key to log into your phone, which makes the Advanced Protection Program virtually free. So you can learn more about the Advanced Protection Program, and you can enroll today by visiting g.co/advanced protection. If you're not quite ready for installing the Advanced Protection Program on your accounts, a great way to make sure you have some basic level security checks on all of your Google accounts is by taking our security checkup. So it's actually just g.co/security checkup. And it's a great step-by-step process to take you through the amount of security on your Google account and identifying any vulnerabilities that might be on your account. So when you're on your security checkup, you'll actually be able to see if you have two-step verification turned on for your account. You can see what devices you're logged into with your account. If any of them look unfamiliar or suspicious, you can just log out of them right there. And you can actually see what third-party apps have access to your account. So it's a great way to make sure you are fully on top of any vulnerabilities there may be. If we see anything in the last 28 days on your account that seems suspicious, we'll notify you on that security checkup. Great. So now that you have created these Google accounts, you've secured all of your accounts to the best of your ability, I want to talk about appearing in Google search. And a quick note, if you have any questions as we're going, again, please feel free to drop them below. And then at the end of this webinar, we will answer them during our Q&A discussion. Great, so appearing in Google search. So how does Google search work? Before jumping into the tools you can use to manage your presence on Google search, it's important to understand the different elements of a typical search query. So this is what a typical search query looks like today. You may have ads running at the top via Google Ads. You're going to have the organic search results that we're all aware of. It's going to have the news carousel. Then you might have the knowledge panel on the top right-hand side. Or you may have a business profile through Google My Business. So want to dive into what tools you can use to make sure that you're establishing yourself and your organization well on search. First and foremost, you should claim your knowledge panel by getting verified on Google because it populates so high up in search. So knowledge panels are dedicated information boxes that spotlight public official and organization information. They appear on the top right hand of a desktop search, and they're actually the very first thing that pops up on a mobile search. So they're really, really high up in search so our users can get accurate and authoritative information. Knowledge panels can have features such as a profile picture, a title, a website URL, a Wikipedia bio snippet, and links to social profiles for the entity. So our users are searching for organizations and public officials. They want to quickly get information about whoever they're searching for. So we want to make sure that those entities who have knowledge panels can actually claim their knowledge panels and make sure that that information in the knowledge panel is as accurate and up to date as possible because it is so high up in search. So this is how you're going to go through and claim your knowledge panel. First, what you'll do is you will log into that shared Google account that you made and secured. Then you will search for your name in Google search on a desktop or a laptop. Then you're going to navigate your cursor to the knowledge panel that's populating on that top right-hand side. And then at the bottom of that knowledge panel, there's going to be a little button that says claim this knowledge panel. From there, you will be taken through our verification process. So you'll either have the option of instantly verifying through your YouTube channel or your Twitter account, or potentially your Facebook. Otherwise, you can complete the Google verification by filling out a form. So this is what a claimed knowledge panel looks like. Basically, it looks the exact same, but just that claim this knowledge panel button on the bottom left has gone away. So once you've claimed your knowledge panel, you want to suggest edits to it. So it's a really easy way to suggest edits to your knowledge panel. You're again going to sign into your shared Google account that you use to claim the knowledge panel. And then from there, you'll use the editing interface to suggest edits to your knowledge panel. Some common edits that we see suggested are changing or updating the profile photo, updating links to the social media profiles that are at the bottom, or adding educational experience. Great, so now that you've claimed and suggested edits to your knowledge panel, I want to talk about another way that you can make sure your constituents can really easily find you in search. And that is going to be by creating a business listing for your office location on Google Maps so constituents can really easily find your office information. So this is what a business profile looks like through Google My Business on Google search. Business profiles make it really, really easy to welcome your constituents, visitors, the press, etc., for those who are looking for your office. It's going to have quick links to your website, directions to your office. You can list your office hours, and you can even upload photos so people can interact with your office in a virtual way, which I know is especially helpful during this time of COVID, where you might not be able to actually have people come into your office in person. So you can get started by just going to google.com/business and claiming or creating that business profile of yours so folks can easily find your office information. Great. So now that you've created that business listing, I want to talk about another great way to leverage the power of Google search, and that is by utilizing a tool called Google Trends. So Google Trends is a really powerful tool that shows you what people are searching for at any given time. So with Google Trends, you can explore what the world is searching for, the country is searching for, your state is searching for, or your metro area is searching for by entering a keyword or topic in the Explore bar. So on the home page of Google Trends, you'll find stories curated by the Google News Lab that provide additional insights found in the data. And you can actually also see daily search trends and year in search data. So we often say that search demonstrates intent. So if your constituents are searching for a topic, that means that they're curious about it, they're interested about it, they want more information about it. So Google Trends is a great way to get your finger on the pulse of your constituents and what they're curious about, what they want to know more about. So with the Google Trends tool, you can actually compare different policy issues over time by defining your search words as terms or topics, depending on your search needs. And you can actually see how these topics are ebbing and flowing in your state or metro area to better understand your constituents' interests. So you can start exploring today at trends.google.com. And our data news lab actually sends out a newsletter on Google Trends recurringly. And you can actually, if you have any interest in subscribing to that Trends newsletter, feel free to email us. Our email will be at the end of this webinar, but it's just civics-outreach@google.com. Again, that's civics-outreach@google.com. And if you want to get on that Trends newsletter, just email us and we will make sure that you get put on that newsletter. Great. So last but not least, I want to talk about utilizing YouTube to engage with your audience. So first, I want to talk about an overview of YouTube, where it stands in 2020, heading into 2021. So in today's day and age, we are all watching video. That is just a fact of the human experience, especially in today's day and age, and we are all connecting with each other virtually. So it's estimated that 82% of all consumer internet traffic will be video content just next year. And where are Americans coming to watch that video content? They're going to YouTube. So 220 million Americans are using YouTube, more than Netflix, more than Facebook Video, Prime Video, Hulu, etc. It's just a great way to connect with your constituents is on YouTube. 84% of adults in the US are coming to YouTube every month to watch full videos on demand and live streams, mostly on their mobile devices. So YouTube is actually the #1 video search engine, and 500 hours of content are uploaded on YouTube every minute. So with all of that being said, YouTube is a great way to connect with your constituents virtually. I want to talk about how you can utilize YouTube to harness online video opportunities so you can deepen your connections with constituents and sustain your platform. So why do Americans come to YouTube? We found that they come for a variety of reasons that largely fall into 3 buckets. First, they want to be inspired. Second, they want to be educated. And third, they want to communicate. They want to connect with others, whether it's celebrities or their elected officials or their friends who are posting YouTube content. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how civic content can incorporate all of these things. But first, I want to talk about building your channel. So what you're going to do in order to build your channel is, first and foremost, you're going to find your channel. You're going to sign in to that shared Google account that I mentioned. And you'll find your channel at youtube.com. From there, you want to change your channel name, your icon, and the description so it really accurately reflects who you are and what you want to represent on your channel. So whether it is your campaign logo, whether it's a photo of yourself, a photo of your district, etc., it's a great way to showcase who you are so people can understand what they're getting when they come to your channel. So you want to add channel art that reflects your community. Here we have an example of George Washington, but again, that can be anything that you think is going to accurately reflect who you are and what you want folks to see when they first come to your channel. So from there, you're going to want to upload a 1-minute channel trailer speaking directly to camera about what people can expect when they come to your channel. It doesn't need to be any more than a minute. You can film it right on your phone. It doesn't need to be this high quality production. It just needs to be authentic. So when folks are coming to your channel, that's actually going to be the first thing that pops up, and it's going to auto play. So it's going to be the first thing that people see. So you want to make sure that you are laying out who you are, what you stand for, and what people can expect when they come to your channel. From there, you want to make sure that you get your channel verified and you get a custom URL. So if you email us at civics-outreach@google.com, we can make sure that we verify that channel of yours. So you get that verification badge and you can get a custom URL so you can blast out your YouTube channel as far and wide as possible. If you're going to the trouble of creating a YouTube channel and posting content to it, you want to make sure that it looks clean, it looks good, and you have that channel verified so people know that is for sure who you are. I know you guys are all dying to know, is there a guided tutorial for setting up a YouTube channel? Yes, there is. Our Creator Academy has a ton of great resources to make sure that you can set up your channel as successfully as possible. And again, if you're not getting this URL right now, that is okay. This video will be archived so you can come back and make sure that you're seeing that URL so you can go to our Creator Academy. So the next thing I want to do is talk about live streaming your video content to communicate up-to-date information to your audience. So YouTube Live is a really great way to make sure that you can interact with your audience in real time, especially as we aren't able to meet in person as much. It's a great way to make sure that you're still having that interactive discussion with your constituents, with your audience. So people can still feel connected to you and be up to date on all the good work you're doing. So a few ways in which we've seen elected officials utilize YouTube Live is first by live streaming events that are already happening. So if you have any type of event going on, but people can't come in person to see it, or you just want to make sure as many people can access it as possible, live streaming that event is a great way to make sure as many people as possible can engage with that content in real time. The next thing that we've seen is folks doing expert interviews on YouTube Live. So if you utilize Google Trends and you're seeing a bunch of people are in your metro area are searching for vaccine information, or they're searching for the local hours or the MBA. You can actually bring on a subject matter expert, whether it's a respected health official in your area, and you actually can do a back and forth expert interview, so people can engage in that interview in real time. Another thing that we've seen people do is similar is a town hall Q&A. Say you can't do an in-person town hall to connect with your constituents, or you can do one and you want to make sure, again, people can access it virtually as well. Making sure you live stream that event is a great way to make sure that you can reach as many people as possible. You can request questions from your audience, from your constituents in real time, and answer them right on the spot, so people really feel like they're getting that authentic back and forth with you, even if it is virtual. So one really great example that we've seen folks do to utilize YouTube to make sure that they're communicating effectively and efficiently with their audience is by doing explainer video series. So if you want to dive deep on some program that's happening in your district, or a piece of policy that's really nuanced and in the weeds, that you want to better explain to your constituents, creating an explainer video series is a great way to break down all that information into a digestible format for your audience. So this right here is a great example from the CDC. They did an explainer video series briefing room when COVID started, where they sourced commonly searched questions on Google search, and they answered them on a recurring basis on YouTube, so folks can make sure that they had the most up-to-date information from CDC every week. So in order to utilize YouTube Live, you're going to need to enable YouTube Live on your channel. So you'll log into your channel. You'll just go to youtube.com/features, and then you're going to want to enable live streaming at least 24 hours in advance of your live event, to make sure that it's enabled on your channel. We've created a pre, during, and post-event production checklist for YouTube live streaming. It's also on our website, so fear not, but wanted to just show some quick highlights of this checklist. So in pre-production, first and foremost, you are going to want to test your setup before you actually live stream. None of us are immune to technical difficulties. They are inevitable in today's day and age. So you just want to make sure everything's good to go. Doing a quick test before you actually start to live stream is a great way to make sure that you can mitigate any of those difficulties that you might run into. During the live event, if it's appropriate for your content, make sure that you're soliciting questions from your audience in real time, so the YouTube live stream is as interactive as possible. On that note, again, quick reminder, if you have any questions, please submit them below and we'll answer them in a few minutes. And then post live stream, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to publish your live stream to your channel so people can watch it afterwards. Unless you want it, of course, to go away after you live stream, you can do that too. But a really great feature about YouTube is that if you do live stream, you can archive it to your channel. So if people weren't able to make your event, or they want to go back and double check to see what happened, they can just go to your channel and see it archived. So we have a full live streaming guide on our website. It's just civicsresources.withgoogle.com. There you can see our live streaming guide, our live streaming checklist, and a ton of other resources beyond just YouTube that you can dive deep on to make sure that you are establishing yourself well on all of our products. So I know that was a lot today, but I wanted to make sure you guys got as much information as possible. But this is our alias. It's just civics-outreach@google.com. If you have any questions at all about anything we covered today or any other Google tools, feel free to email us. We are always happy to answer your questions. And with that, again, please feel free to submit your questions below, but we will open it up for discussion.
Thank you, Andrea. All right, let's see how I do as moderator here. So one quick one, just because I think it'll be helpful for everyone. There was a question about a link to this webinar. The team responded in the question, so everyone should be able to see that link. And we will also follow up with an email with all of this information, the team's alias and all that good stuff. So if you missed anything, just look for your email afterwards.
Yeah, and one quick thing, Liz, to follow up on that is I'll send the link to this actual training and then the link to the deck itself so people can click on links within the deck, etc. That's
great. So Andrea, to kick off, we had a couple questions on the Advanced Protection Program and two-step verification. One on, I'll just give you both so you can tackle them. One on if you use your phone as the security key, but then you lose your phone, which has always been a nightmare scenario for me. I know I use that. And then one from Dennis saying that the verification code he received is too long to enter in the sign-in field. So maybe we'll start with the first one though. Okay. So for the first one, using your phone as a security key is a great way to use the Advanced Protection Program, but we strongly suggest getting a backup security key should that happen. Because Google's Advanced Protection Program is so strong, if you're locked out, there's going to be a more intensive vetting process to get you back into your account. If that happens, email us again, civics-outreach@google.com, and we can help troubleshoot there. But highly, highly, highly recommend if you're using your phone as a security key, make sure you get a backup key. Even if you actually have a physical security key, you should always have a backup just in case. And then in regards to the other question, I've not actually run into that issue of having a verification code that's longer than what's prompted. So if you could actually just email us and maybe send a screenshot, then we can try and troubleshoot from there. But usually it should be the same number, so we can double check on that. Okay. And then here's one that starts to talk about two-step verification when you have multiple people logging into a shared account. So how do you do that when you have multiple people, like that shared account scenario that you were describing? Yeah, so that can definitely be tricky. So what we suggest for that is by making sure that rather than using two-step verification, you're using a really unique, really strong, really long password, and you are storing that password in some sort of password manager. So as I mentioned, Google has one that's built right into Chrome, which is really helpful. But you can also use ones like LastPass or 1Password to make sure everybody who has that. And sorry, my colleague just pinged me. Another great way to make sure that you can use two-step verification is by having multiple keys for everyone that's using that account, multiple physical security keys, because multiple keys can be registered to one account. And you can actually name those keys. So say
you have 4 people on your team, making sure everybody has a physical security key. And then everybody has that second layer of protection on that account. And if someone on the team leaves, you can actually just remove their key so they no longer have access to the account.
That's great. So now we have kind of a general question about just can you go into a little bit more explanation of how to make shared team accounts? And sorry to keep giving you 2 questions at the same time, Andrea, but I wonder if you can go into another question that's on here that's somewhat related, that if you already have a few separate email accounts for the office or the elected official that you work for, how do you then go back and sort of streamline that if you've already set up separate like YouTube or Gmail accounts for that office?
Yeah. So regarding the first question about setting up a shared Google account, oftentimes what we see is either you can create a Gmail, but you don't need to create a Gmail. Again, you can use your official domain and say you want to use something for your comm side of things. You can create something that's like comms at official.state.gov, and you can just go to accounts.google.com and utilize that email address to create the shared account, rather than it being, Jane Doe at google.com. You just know it's for the comms team because you just label it something like comms at. And then I'm sorry, what was the second question?
Yeah. No, I'll stop doing that to you live. I'm putting you on the spot. The other one is that if you're not currently using a shared account and already have separate accounts for the elected official you serve on Google and YouTube, can you somehow move all of these accounts into one shared account? Do you know what I mean? So like if you've already opened up the can of worms and have many accounts everywhere, is there a way to sort of streamline that somehow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's gonna look different for different products. So, for example, on YouTube, you a somewhat new but really helpful feature on YouTube now is that you can have multiple managers on your account. So, say you want to like slowly move away from using your personal account to manage that shared YouTube. I would create that shared Google account, add it as a manager to your YouTube, and so you can make sure that even if once you've fully sort of deprecated that one personal Google account, that that shared comms account can access the YouTube. I think there are a few options. I don't think there is one specific sort of answer to this, but you can set up forwarding from one account to the next. You can also migrate information. You can like migrate your data from one account to the next. It really depends on like what accounts you're using. But we have a lot of helpful articles about how to migrate your data from whether it's Gmail or it's Microsoft 365 or something like that to another account. And I'm happy to share those after. But again, it's just kind of going to look different depending on how you want to do it. There's more intensive versions like migrating your data, but there might be simpler versions like just adding multiple managers or setting up automatic forwarding.
Mm-hmm. I think this is perhaps one of the last shared account questions. If someone does not have a provided official email, official government email account, is there a way to get something like this through Google? So I'm assuming like Google domains to have a more official looking thing as opposed to like representative Liz Schwab at gmail.com.
So we have G Suite or Google Workspace, so you can create your own domain to do that. But outside of Gmail, I would encourage you to explore Google Workspace and setting up your own G Suite to make sure, rather than at gmail.com, rather than having that typical consumer Gmail, it might look more official if it's Joe at refjoe.com. something like that. So I would say utilizing something like G Suite or Google Workspace is a great way to do that.
That's great. Again, if I'm not characterizing anybody's questions correctly, feel free to email the team.
Yes, please do.
Moving on to some search questions. So they don't see the knowledge panel icon. What does it look like?
They don't see the knowledge panel icon. I'm wondering if they mean they don't see the claim this knowledge.
Maybe it's the claim your knowledge panel. Yeah.
Okay, so if you see your or a knowledge panel and it does not have the claim this knowledge panel button at the bottom, that will usually mean, if you're an individual, that will mean that it's already been claimed. So if you are seeing your individual knowledge panel, you're not seeing the claim this knowledge panel button, what I would encourage you to do is take a screenshot, send it to us, just so we can confirm that it is like an actual knowledge panel that you're looking at, and then we're happy to help you get information to figure out how you can find out who owns that knowledge panel, especially if it is for you. Of course, you're going to want to make sure you know who's owning that knowledge panel. But I will say, there's a lot of security involved with claiming a knowledge panel. Our verification process is very thorough, so those things are not easily claimed if it is not the representative of the authority.
That's great. Everybody's favorite question. I get this from friends and family. Can you talk about some of the phishing and scam calls? I get calls daily about our information on Google stating we need to update our profile so constituents can find us on Google.
Yeah, so okay, I'm getting a real-time ping from one of my colleagues. Sometimes the Google My Business teams have legitimately called people to update info for their offices. But as we all know, there are plenty of scams out there, so it's always better to be skeptic. It's always better to be skeptical than not. But we have a Help Center article, I believe, that our folks can put in the chat. But if you are getting Google scams, you can we have a Help Center article for avoiding and reporting those Google scams. And we go through a list of specific scams, whether it's Google Lotto scams, Google telemarketing calls, Gmail update phishing, things like that. We have like a whole list of things that we've seen in mass, and resources for how to avoid those and report them. So I believe if our team can put that in the public chat, please do feel free to. And I see that Maria already did, so feel free to reference that article. And again, always feel free to contact us if you see something fishy and you're not sure what to do with it.
And I'll just say, as someone whose home phone number was used to be a business, most of the time these are not actually from Google. So if you're not sure, as Andrea said, email the team and they can help you. And that help article should be useful as well. All right, let's see. This was not mentioned in the webinar, but is there any way to make negative news stories be less prominent in Google search? I will chime in quickly that one of the best ways is to provide authoritative information, and a lot of the ways that Andrea was just going over, so that authoritative information is first. But Andrea, any thoughts or comments on negative news stories?
Yeah, so our due to our honest results, you're not able to sort of manipulate what appears in search. Our search team goes to great lengths to make sure that authoritative, accurate information is high up in search. Unfortunately, you can't sort of manually remove things that might be unflattering about you. What I would say is we do have search engine optimization tools for you and your webmaster, for any of your developers. So you want to make sure your website is appearing high up in search. You can use our SEO tools. They're all publicly available. And I would, again, strongly suggest that you claim your knowledge panel, because it is so high up in search. It's higher than anything on mobile. It's truly the very first thing. And on a desktop search, it's going to be the top right. But if you are getting unflattering information surfacing, that's not something that you can necessarily get taken down.
Yep. Thank you. All right, I think this next one is for Joe. Joe, could you talk a little bit about how we're working with the states on vaccine information and misinformation, making sure that we're getting it right?
Sure, happy to do that. Thank you all for making it to this point in the webinar. We appreciate your participation. So when it comes to COVID-related issues and vaccines as a subset of that, there are a number of ways that we're working with states across the country to kind of ensure that authoritative content is what is featured most prominently in our products, whether it's Google Search or YouTube. And so I just wanted to flag one main way that we've been working with states and local governments. The first is globally, we've committed $250 million in advertising grants on Google Search to public health authorities. A large portion of that is kept for states in the US, and most of the states are currently taking advantage of our ad grant offers. We hope the remaining ones will do so soon. But what ad grants can do is ensure that when the Department of Health in your state is providing information to the public on its website about COVID testing centers, how to avoid COVID vaccines, that when you are searching for that kind of information in Google Search, the public health site link is what is going to be at the top of search results. And so, we hope that now that states are promoting their vaccine plans, providing more information on their websites, when they're taking advantage of our ad grants, that it will be front and center for users in your state about what is, accurate and available in your state. And when it comes to misinformation, one of the reasons that we are making these ad grants available is the more authoritative content that we push up in search results, the less problematic some of that misinformation is, because they would have to go looking for it more aggressively. On YouTube, it's a similar situation. They're working to raise up authoritative content, whether it's trusted news sources or public health authorities, but also they have policies in place so that if someone is posting a video saying vaccines are a plot by Bill Gates to implant everybody with a microchip, that kind of content can be removed because it violates our policies. So we're working hard on it. We're staying in touch with your states and with the CDC and federal agencies, but that's something that we'll continue to push out aggressively in the coming weeks, and you'll see more from us soon on that.
Thank you, Joe. I know we're almost at time. I think we have time to answer this one last knowledge panel question, Andrea, on if your knowledge panel is linking to the wrong account, a campaign account, as opposed to your official account.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would strongly suggest you claim your knowledge panel and you suggest edits to it. So again, there's going to be little pencil buttons by those social media icons. You can suggest an edit to switch out those social media channels to be whichever ones that you want it to that are you. So maybe in the campaign season, you want them all to link to your campaign accounts. Maybe at the start of the legislative session, you want them all to link to your official site accounts. That's up to you, and you can do that all through the editing interface.
That's great. So I hope this was helpful. I know we have one comment asking if there will be more webinars. William alluded to a few that we're planning later or early next year, rather, on some policy issues as well as some small business resources. But Andrea, if they wanted to go back and review any of this content or keep aware of your team's upcoming webinars, can you flag the best place for them to go?
Yeah, great question. We have a ton of webinars. Our team actually did 20 webinars in 2020 when we pivoted to virtual, and those are all on our YouTube channel, which is actually where this webinar will be stored. So you can go to our YouTube channel, search through all the different webinars we did, whether it's YouTube, trends, etc. We have different experts on from different product areas to talk about some of our stuff. We'll continue to do these trainings. Again, just email us civics-outreach@google.com and visit our website, civicsresources.withgoogle.com. And there you can find a ton of super helpful decks that you can peruse at your leisure to make sure that you have all the information you need.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Andrea, for your time. Thank you all so much for joining, and we will be following up with more information. And of course, if you have any questions, Civics Outreach or Civics Outreach-Google at google.com.
Here we go. I can show it right here, civics-outreach@google.com.
Thank you, keeping me honest. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays. Happy New Year.